So you know how in New York they did that broken window theory policing thing? That's where you enforce the most minor of crimes. And like if a broken window is broken, you have to fix that window immediately or ticket the person with the broken window.
Yeah.
If a car has a flat tire, you ticket that tire, you tow it. You get that. You can't have any. So that's the idea. And that was what was credited for a little while anyway with bringing crime down in New York City. Now, we've come to know that doesn't actually work, and that there were crime that New York was going down like the rest of the country was going down their crime, and doesn't necessarily. And then they were also doing stop and frisk in New York City, which is 100% illegal.
But you know, the guy that came up with the broken windows theory was like, that is not what I was getting at with that theory.
That's exactly right. You're right. Yeah. So
there is a thing to making it nicer, but they're not going to do that. They'll police you. They're not going to make it nicer.
Right.
Like,
that's right. The guy who invented this thing said that the people in New York City, the cops distorted it and they implemented it incorrectly, of course. So here's this new story. So the new mayor, who is an African-American, I'm pretty sure, here he is going backwards. As Adams toughens on crime, some fear a return to the 90s era of policing. In Mayor Eric Adams' first 3 months in office, New York City has been marred by shootings and hate crimes, a fatal subway shoving in Times Square, and other high-profile killings. Now, the mayor is testing just how much a liberal city is willing to empower its police. If it's one thing the New York police don't need, it's greater leeway. I'll tell you that. Despite longstanding controversy around broken windows policing, enforcement of low-level offenses in an effort to prevent more serious crimes, the police department this week announced a new initiative designed to enforce so-called quality of life matters aimed at issues including public drinking, public urination, and dice games that lead to disputes and shootings.
Well, when I lived there, I remember all the dice games that I had to face as I... Oh my God, they're playing dice. There's going to be a shooting.
Oh my God, they're playing dice. Now, I'm all for the public drinking and public urination thing. That
no,
you certainly want
to do that.
You certainly want to you don't want people, but have you been to Europe? Have you seen? In Amsterdam, you pee right in the middle of the street.
Ew, really?
They have. It's like when I was a kid, they used to have those stand-up merry-go-round. Not a merry-go-round, but where it goes, maybe a merry-go-round.
It doesn't spin while you pee, does it? That would suck.
It spins while you pee. That's where the talent comes. No, but it's literally, so you go in, there's a circle, and then there's these little fins that come out, and you go there, and you pee. And I'm going to guess the reason why they had that was because people were peeing all over the place. Because they drink like maniacs over there.
Right. So you mean they built something for the problem rather than
just hiring more cops.
A crackdown. Yeah. Right.
So they actually got a solution to this problem. We don't have that solution in the United States. They don't have, I don't know why they don't put more porta potties outside or have that thing or.
I couldn't believe when I lived there, stop and frisk. I couldn't even believe that was an argument. And then if you look up how many guns they actually took off, the percentages are very low. It wasn't like,
right, I know.
Oh, they're catching way more guns now by violating all these people's rights. And then people would argue. I mean, right when I heard about it, I'm like, if I had to just walk down my street and get patted down by a cop every day, I would probably have a problem with that and not really give a shit if your numbers looked good,
Yeah. The police. Oh wait. The new measures will initially be utilized in neighborhoods experiencing high rates of gun violence in Brooklyn and the Bronx. So the new measure, they're going to go after the poor people. They immediately go after black and brown poor people. That's exactly what they did with stop and frisk.
If they were going after gun violence, like that dice game shit, this is what they do with speech. This is the same thing. It's broken windows theory of speech. You need to aggressively punish the tiniest things, and it doesn't. It makes things shittier and more angry. Yeah.
The new measure will be in poor black and brown neighborhoods in Brooklyn and Bronx, some of the same areas where black and Hispanic New Yorkers were disproportionately affected by stop and frisk police tactics that were deemed unconstitutional. After years of national Democratic efforts to distance themselves from 90s-style tough-on-crime tactics, Mr. Adams is now pushing New York into a new era of more aggressive law enforcement, even with the city far safer than in earlier decades.
Wait, what does that mean? You mean like the
crime?
70s?
So crime statistics, I'm going to guess, are much lower than they were in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. That's what I'm going to guess.
But they're higher than they just were. I mean, that's kind of a wormy way they wrote that. Like they're much higher than what they were just when I was there. So they're.
So you're saying the trend is on an uptick, is what you're saying.
I still talk to people in New York. It's crazy the shit that goes on there, and even people that were like, "No, it's not a problem here." Now they're like, "Oh, it is. Well, maybe it is an issue." Like.
Well, let's get through this. Mr. Adams and Governor Kathy Hochul have launched plans to have police officers conduct more regular sweeps of the subway system, along with efforts to combat homelessness there. So I wish I would have saved this, but I was on Twitter a week or two ago, and I saw a tweet about how they're giving way more police presence to the subways to stop those people who jump the thing.
Yeah.
Someone said with the extra money they're spending, they could have just made the subway fucking free.
Oh, God.
Wow. Well, that's
so I'm going to look into that. I don't know if that stat is 100%, but I would like to look into that.
Well, how much you want to bet?
Malcolm, can you look into that? See if that's an actual stat.
Like the other unintended broken windows thing, like all this attention on cracking down on the turnstile jumping.
Yeah.
You miss some of the pushings into the tracks, you know?
Yeah.
While you're focused on the other thing.
Subway should be fucking free. Anyway, I don't know why. What, you know what I mean? Like what? You're gonna charge poor people? Can't we? Can't we just bake this into the system? Like, how you don't have to pay to walk on a sidewalk. How come I have to pay? That costs money. Somebody has to build that and maintain it. Oh, you mean it's just factored into the taxes I pay every day? Why couldn't we do that with a subway? I don't understand why they don't do that.
Well, probably because of graft. You got to pay all that graft tax.
That's
on
right.
Every single thing. Same thing. Problem is here.
Politico says Adams plows ahead with clearing homeless encampments. Here we go.
Tonight, we are learning more about New York City's controversial plan to remove homeless encampments on city streets. Mayor Adams says the city will take down those makeshift shelters, but there are a lot of questions here, including where will the people who set them up go? News 4's Jessica Cunnington explains.
Today I can't be here. Tomorrow I can't be there.
Bill has been living on the streets for several years and says his cart of belongings was just cleared out by city workers last week.
That makes me feel violated. I mean, that's my property.
And he's on guard once again because Saturday, Mayor Eric Adams announced an initiative to dismantle homeless encampments across the city.
Right now, people are living in inhumane conditions.
The mayor says after giving 24 to 48-hour notice, encampments will be taken down and vouchers will be given for personal items. Teams will then connect homeless New Yorkers to shelters and services.
Yes, we want them in shelters. The shelters are extremely safer for people who are homeless.
I'd rather be here, yes. I just need a safe environment, and the shelters is not it. One time they put me in a safe haven. That was great. That was terrific.
And after 1 month of the mayor's subway safety plan, City Hall says outreach teams engaged with more than 650 people in need daily. 312 people accepted services. Officers have also given out more than 6,800 transit summonses and made 719 arrests. The Coalition for the Homeless was against the subway safety plan. And now with this homeless encampment initiative, the policy director says if the mayor wants to actually help homeless people, then he should open up thousands of safe haven and stabilization rooms, not take away the little protection that they have.
Can you look up what a safe haven is? What's the difference between a safe haven and a homeless shelter? Because that homeless guy said one time he got to go to a safe haven, whatever that is, and it was great.
Right.
But he doesn't want to go to the shelter. Now, I can imagine, I've never been to a shelter. We should go check one out. We should go talk to the people there. I probably will going forward.
This says Safe Haven provides more than shelter. They close the gap in housing and services available for those homeless individuals who perhaps because of their illness have refused help. So they must be providing other programs for them as well.
So you're saying it's better than a big migrant cage?
Yes, yes.
So, okay, let's see if there's more to this.
Out here on the streets, on the Upper East Side, I'm Jessica Cunnington, News 4 New York.
All right.
God, they can't just do like better policing. So it's got to be. You see how they do that bullshit with they made 719 arrests for something like It's always got to be the score on the board that doesn't
Yes.
really tell you how good a job they're doing.
Under Mayor Eric Adams' plan to crack down on street homelessness, the city has cleaned 239 homeless encampments since the program began less than 2 weeks ago.
It's in the language. There's not, they've homed 239 homeless people. No, they cleaned them out.
They cleaned them out.
That's in the language. Who gives a shit where they went? They're gone. They're clean.
Also, they wanted to, Malcolm wanted to add about safe havens. They're less restrictive than a shelter. Not as many rules about when you can come and go, curfews.
Yeah. So a lot of people have, I've heard them say that the shelter isn't what you think it is, and the shelter is them dictating your life to you, and they don't like to live under those conditions. And I don't know how safe shelters are. I can't imagine they're that safe. Shocking video captured on NYPD officers pummeling a homeless man until he was apparently unconscious, as cops try to clear encampments that have sprung up around crime-plagued New York City. Mayor-elect Eric Adams did not respond to the Daily Mail's request for comment. Do you want to watch this? I don't really want to watch this.
No, I don't want to watch it. No, it's going to upset me.
So, wow.
Jesus Christ.
Jesus.
Did a ground and pound on it?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
And so, what kind of person signs up for that job? Okay, to go pound homeless people. He's pounding them. A homeless guy. The guy that couldn't be the lowest ladder of society. There's no one lower than a homeless person. And
I don't think they sign up for that. They sign up, and then the job is like, once you do the job, you just get numb. You know, like, who signs up to work at a slaughterhouse, or like, you get numb to that, you know, day after day. And especially in New York, it's such like the crazy things that go on there. People just get numb to it. That's why you have to have people on top that are directing it in a way, because these people just become like a hand or an arm or a fist or a foot. You know what I mean? Like they totally blank out of all, like, you know, you become compartmentalized to the system.
Yes, you don't see human beings as the people you're supposed to serve. You see them as your subjects that you are supposed to inflict pain on.
It turns you into AOC, basically.
Yeah. Well, which is why you're supposed to live in the neighborhood you police. You're supposed to, which is what they don't do. That's a big problem with policing. People don't live in the neighborhood they police. They don't know the people that they're policing, so they are now an occupying force in your neighborhood instead of a server. They're supposed to be serving your community, and what cops really are occupying hostile forces.
Did I tell you when I used to live in Washington Heights, the guy I used to get weed from, he, like, some gang ran the block that, like, actually kept it kind of safe, but I remember he goes, listen, I got transferred a few blocks up, and the new guys aren't from, I'm from this block, so I just try to keep it nice. Mm-hmm. The new people aren't going to keep it as nice because they're not from here. And a gang member said this to me, like, he knew that as a gang member.
A gang member knows if the people running your block aren't from your block, they're not going to keep it nice. Right?
Yeah, it's just a real basic.
So a gang member can get that concept, but the police can't. Earlier this month, the police department unveiled a revamped version of a police unit focused on getting guns off the street. Earlier incarnations of the unit, which were associated with disproportionate number of fatal shootings by the police, were disbanded. So every time they put together, I remember in Baltimore we covered this, whenever they put together a special unit to get guns off the street, those are the biggest criminals in the world, those cops. They become the biggest abusers, the biggest criminals, the biggest ethics violators, the biggest civil rights violators, and that's what's going to happen again because it happens all the time. It was so bad before they had to disband the unit.
Yeah, right. That's the thing. You got to do the dirty work. Like, I imagine you could just getting transferred into that, you're just going to have to become like a thug because the directive is put those numbers on the board.
That's right.
It's like a higher stakes version of when I was at like Funko Land. We had to sell so many upsells a month, and then people would do shady stuff to get the numbers up.
And there's no such thing as a good cop or a bad cop because there's two kinds of cops. It's not good and bad. There's cops who assimilate to the culture and the cops who quit. That's it. So there's no good cop, bad cop. There's a corrupt, brutal, maniac, hostile, without regard for human beings, and also with no accountability culture of policing in America. That's what you get. And if you think you're a good person and you want to join that police force and change it, you want to be a good person, you either succumb to the culture or they shoot you in the face like Serpico. There's no good guys inside the police department. There's just loyal police. And they're loyal to the blue, not to you. There's no such. That's it. Look what happened to Serpico. And Serpico wrote an article in 2018, which I put on my Facebook page. And he says it's worse now than when he was a policeman and they shot him in the face because he wouldn't take dirty drug money.
Well, I mean, did they have gangs called the Executioners when he
Right,
was
right. Mr. Adams, former police captain who spoke out against police brutality and the abuse of stop and frisk, has stressed that he will not tolerate police misconduct. But some New York officials fear that the city is moving closer to the Giuliani era, which critics associated with discriminatory over-policing. I feel like I'm in a time warp, says Assemblywoman Latrice M. Walker, whose Brooklyn district includes neighborhoods that are slated for greater quality of life issue enforcement.
That's a great term.
That's a great term. I know that the calendar says 2022, but a return to broken windows policing makes me feel like it's 1994 and Rudy Giuliani is the mayor, stop and frisk is out of control, and the New York Police Department is harassing black and brown New Yorkers. Across the country, the politics of public safety have been dramatically reordered over the last 2 years, first by social justice protests following the police killing of George Floyd, and then by a rise in gun violence amid the pandemic. Nowhere has the trajectory been clearer than in New York City, where Mr. Adams, the city's second black mayor, won last year by promoting both safety and racial justice. So this seems to be in conflict. Mr. Adams, who has relayed his own experience with police brutality and sought to battle injustice from within the police department, said that technologies like cameras, that's what's going to help guard against police misconduct, and that there would be efforts to get community input around enforcement of quality of life issues. So police cameras, they only work if you turn them on. And cops notoriously don't turn them on. Okay. Both supporters and skeptics of the policing plan have raised concerns about the safety risks for officers and the possibility of racial profiling of young black and Hispanic men in the neighborhoods targeted for enforcement and most afflicted by violence. Giuliani used quality of life enforcement as a pretext for racial stops, and Bloomberg doubled down on it, said Jen Ronick Borchetta, the managing director of impact litigation at the Bronx Defenders, and a lawyer for the plaintiffs who sued the city over its stop and frisk tactics. She added that the pivot to quality of life offenses amid a spike in serious crime in the 1990s is the same two-step that's happening right now. Enough units to house all New York City's homeless are sitting vacant. What? There's enough housing units in New York City to house every homeless person, and they're sitting vacant. This is from March 21st.
What are the units? Is that like all those apartments that are like foreign investments that are empty and, you know, people buy it to flip it?
I would probably guess that. I know in my neighborhood in Pasadena, in just my 1 square block, there was at least 4 empty houses. Empty, sitting there empty the whole fucking time I lived there, empty. Isn't that weird? In a blue-collar neighborhood in Pasadena, on the wrong side of the tracks, there's 4 empty houses.
They're not living houses. They're owning houses.
one square block. Yeah. I just 1 square block, literally. Not even a square. Anyway. So let's see what this says. There is simply nothing more demonic than Eric Adams pre-gaming the destruction of all remaining homeless encampments in New York by attending a private
ASAP Rocky.
ASAP Rocky show with Cara Delevingne. I don't know what this means.
Delevingne. She's an actress, and
so
A$AP
he's
Rocky's
at.
a
So while
rapper.
they're doing this, while they're ripping down encampments, he's at a private Rocky show party with this
ASAP Rocky. Yeah. What is the?
I don't know.
Play it. What does it show?
I'm going to play it. Let's play it. So hang on. There we go. Okay, we can't play music. So turn down the music, please. And then I'll play it.
Champagne.
So they got champagne. There she is. Yeah.
He should have worn a ball gown with Tax the Rich on it.
Let's play it again. I don't know. I don't know how damning this is, actually. I mean, he's at a party. He goes to parties. He's the mayor. So there you have it. They're going backwards in New York City, and they got a black guy to do it for them. And so people won't scream that it's, or they won't scream as loud or as often that it's racist, probably. I guess that's why. But we'll see.
It's amazing. There can never just be like a solution. It's got to be like some extremist nonsense one way or the other. It's like, we need too much police. They're like, now we should have none. Okay, go back to way too much. I'm like, where's the porridge that's just right? Does anybody like want to make that?
Well, they're not calling for an increase in social workers. They're not calling for an increase in mental hospitals or mental ward beds, which is what America needs. Nobody ever talks about in the 80s. They just closed down all the mental hospitals and put all those people on the street. We never had homeless people before until Ronald Reagan did that, and nobody ever talks about that. And now I watch talk shows where people say the homeless people are all drug addicts. That's it.
Yeah.
They're all drug addicts. That's it. And they want to be there. So now you can have disdain for those people, right?
Yeah, right.
40% of homeless people work. They have jobs. They just don't make enough money to actually afford housing in this fucking hellscape of a end game capitalism we're living in. Did you know that 40% of homeless people have jobs? Did you know that 2.3 million homeless people are children? 2.3 million homeless people are children. You want to shit on them too as drug addicts? Because that's what it's very easy. I saw a guy.
Of people are drug addicts that are shitting on them. They just have homes, so they feel like superior drug addicts.
Yes, that's right.
Most of America are drug addicts of some kind, like almost the entire country. It's really like, are you on one of the ones that's okay at the moment? And then, if you've already got the indignity, you live in the street, maybe you don't want to go somewhere where they're like talking. Basically, it's like prison. Like, well, you're homeless and you're like a child, a ward in my care now, so I'm going to tell you what you have to do and when. Like, I could see why somebody wouldn't want to do that. I'd rather live in the street than move back in with my mom ever again.
So it's just amazing to see. I saw a guy who's running, said he's got a plan to cure homelessness in California. And his plan was all about these goddamn drug addicts. They're all drug addicts. Like, dude, there's 2.3 million children who are homeless. Yeah. Never once spoke to that. Never once spoke to that. Ronald Reagan shut down all the mental hospitals and psychiatric hospitals and threw all those people on the street. We never talk about any of that. What they want to do is more cops, never more social workers, never more, what is it called? Safety zones or whatever?
Safe havens.
Safe havens. We got the money.
Not healthcare.
They certainly still won't give people healthcare. So what is it going to take for people to revolt in this country? I don't know. You never know what's going to set it off, but I hope it starts, and I hope it doesn't stop until we overthrow this government. Hey, we're doing our live stand-up tour. We're going to be in Orlando. We're going to be in Tampa, Columbus, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, much, much more. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for all the tickets. And you can come see our shows in Los Angeles, too. We do one weekly. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com and become a premium member while you're there. Get all the extra content. Thank you.